Good morning, students. Welcome back to online classes of analog communication. So I hope you are all doing well at your homes. In last class we have seen about your pulse position modulation. That was one of the last topic of your unit 3, that is chapter 3 of your analog pulse modulation schemes. Correct? So in today's class we'll just wind up our third unit completely. One of the last topic which is remained was your time division multiplexing. So in today's class we are going to see about your time division multiplexing, right? And today we will also be seeing the comparison between your pulse amplitude modulation, pulse width modulation and pulse position modulation. Okay, before going to see that, we'll just revise what we have seen in pulse amplitude, pulse width and pulse position modulation, correct? And in last class we have completely discussed about your pulse position modulation. I hope you are all clear with pulse position modulation, right? So let's just begin with the comparison. So what was in last class, what we have discussed about your pulse position modulation? What was there? So as to get your pulse position modulation, we need pulse width modulation. That is the reference signal. From that we are that signal is given to your monostable multivibrator, isn't it or not? For getting the modulation of ppm requires a PWM modulator. That PWM modulator is given to a monostable multivibrator, because the trailing edge of your pulse width modulation is a starting point or the initial point for your pulse position modulation, and depending on that one only your position will be changed, isn't it? So the definition of your pulse position modulation, what was the definition? Pulses, position of your pulses will be varied in accordance with the modulated signal, amplitude of your message signal, correct? So that was your pulse position modulation. For the modulation side, what for getting this generation of your ppm signal, what do you require? You require a pulse width modulated signal generator or the PWM generator. To that PWM generator we have to add a monostable multivibrator, because why we are going for the monostable multivibrator? It is a trailing edge generator, right? Negative edge generator. So that's the reason we are going for the monostable multivibrator which generates your ppm signal. And at the receiver side, what you are having? You will be having a pp. First you have to demodulate your PWM signal, correct? So first you have to get your PWM signal, then you have to go for getting your original message signal. ppm has to be converted to PWM, and to convert that one, what you are using? We are using a SR flip-flop. To that, for two inputs, for one input you are giving ppm pulses, and for one more input you are giving as reference pulse generator. That are given as the inputs for your flip-flop, and you will be getting a PWM signal, and to that PWM signal has to be converted to your original signal, right? So that PWM demodulator you are using. I hope you remember what is PWM demodulator also. What you are having in PWM demodulator, ma? You will be having a ramp generator, right? You are also having a reference signal generator, then it is giving to a clipper which clips out the external noise, then it is given to the low pass filter as to get your original message signal. So this was about your ppm signal. I hope you are all clear with the PAM generation, PWM and ppm. Okay, today in today's class we'll see the comparison of your PAM, PWM and ppm signals. Okay, so what is PAM? Pulse amplitude modulation. PWM is pulse width modulation. ppm is pulse position modulation. Okay, in PAM amplitude is varied, yes or not? Your pulse amplitude is varied in accordance with your message signal. Here the width is varied, and in ppm your position is varied. In PAM again, bandwidth depends upon the width of the pulses, yes or no? Because you are not using continuous carrier signal, right? So we are using the pulses, the pulse train is been used. So we are using the bandwidth depends upon the width of the pulses. Bandwidth here also depends upon the rise time of the pulses, because here width will be changing. Here also same, because as PWM is the reference signal for your ppm, of course your bandwidth depends upon the rise time of your pulses. Now the third difference, instantaneous transmitter power varies with the amplitude of the pulses. So this is the drawback of your the amplitude modulation, isn't it or not? Whenever your pulses, your amplitude of your modulated signal is varying, at the same time your power is also varied. So that is the why we are going for PWM, PPM. Here the amplitude is kept constant. Yes, so as amplitude is kept constant, power is not varied over here. So instantaneous transmitter power varies with the amplitude and width of the pulses. Here also the same, the power remains constant and the width of the pulses will be changing. So this is the drawback in this two one, and is advantageous because of your PPM. Now see, the third one is complexity. The system complexity is high. Yes, of course, here in PAM your system is more complex. Here the complexity is low in PWM as well as in your PPM. Now the noise interference is high. Can you tell me why we are saying the noise interference is high in this here? In PIM, because your amplitude is varied, your pulse, your carrier amplitude. Go back to your natural and flat top sampling. There you can see the top at the flat top sampling, the amplitude of your carrier is not varied. If it is varying like this, then some noise will be added. So here also the noise interference is very high because your amplitude of the carrier is also varied in accordance with your message signal. So the amplitude should not be changed. So due to that one, the noise will be added. So that's the reason we are saying noise interference is high in your pulse amplitude modulation. When we are comparing it with your PWM and PPM, your amplitude of the carrier is having constant. So that's the reason noise interference is low both in your PWM as well as your PPM signals. Correct? Now it is similar to the amplitude modulation. Yes, of course, this is continuous wave modulation as I said. This is your discrete pulse modulation schemes, that are your continuous modulation schemes. In continuous modulation schemes, we have seen amplitude modulation, frequency modulation and phase modulation. These are also similar. Here we are having just pulses. Okay, so it is similar to the pulse modulation. It is similar to the frequency modulation, pulse width, and pulse position modulation is similar to your phase modulation. Okay, I hope you are clear with the comparisons of your PAM, PWM, PPM modulation and demodulation techniques also. In case of any doubts, please do let me know. Okay, in today's class there might be some disturbance because in the college some work is going on. If you are having any disturbance, you didn't got any point, so please do let me know. I'll explain it once again for you. Okay, now the next topic that we are going to discuss in today's class is about your time division multiplexing. This is the last topic of your unit 3. Okay, so what is time division multiplexing? In last year you have studied ED, right? There you have studied about multiplexing. You have also done the practical, what is multiplexer, 2x1, 4x1 mux. What is meant by multiplexer? Simply n inputs getting one output. Here also we are using the technique, same thing, because this time division multiplexing is used in your modulation side, and the most kind of modulation that is used here is your pulse amplitude modulation. So the time division multiplexing is one of the important thing. It's just a last topic. Okay, for explanation, for better explanation for you people, it has given. So the definition for your time division multiplexing is that the multiplexing technique by which the multiple data signals can be transmitted over a common communication channel in different time slots is known as time division multiplexing. You are dividing the time. First of all, we will see that what is meant by multiplexing. Multiplexer is nothing but you are having n number of inputs, but at last you will be getting only one output. So this time division multiplexing is that you are dividing the time, okay, into different time slots, and they are all given through a particular communication channel. Okay, what is a channel? A medium through which you are transferring your data from the transmitter to the receiver, from one end to another end, isn't it or not? So the multiplexing techniques by which the multiple data signals, you are having lots of data signals that are transmitted over a communication channel in different time slots. You are having different time slot is known as your time division multiplexing. Your complete see what I am telling is your multiple data. these multiple data is transmitted through a particular channel. Means what is the channel? Through your internet, right? So that communication channel, I am transferring my data in different time slots. See, whatever I am seeing, for a different, for 1 second it will transfer one data, one word, for after 1 second one word. So it is dividing into different time slots, and your message or data is being transmitted from one end to another end through a particular common channel. So this is about your time division multiplexing, the definition. Okay, I hope you are clear with the definition. So it allows the division of overall time domain into various fixed length time slots. It completely gives you the fixed length time slots, and then it is transferring your data. Okay, a single frame is said to be transmitted when its all signal components are getting transmitted over a channel. So what are the messages it is getting at the transmitter side? What it do, it makes a frame of some particular data. Then it will be transferring your data from your transmitter to the receiver through a common channel. I'll just show the figure, it will be very clear for you people. See, this is how the frame will be working. Okay, multiplexing, this is the mux, and this is the data what we are transferring. See, this is source 1, source 2, source 3. All this data has to be transmitted. Now what time division, TDM working principle, how it works, what I have said already. What it is, it allows a division of overall time domain into fixed variable length time slots. Okay, then it will be transmitting. So the different time slot will be there, no, that it will be dividing. Now see what you are having. You are having, these are the different time slots, these are the 3 sources, this is the data that has to be transmitted through a communication channel. Yes. So the multiplexing allows the transmission of several signals over a communication channel. So what we have to need, one may need a differentiate between, you have to differentiate between the various signals for proper data transmission. That is the important thing. What you have to do, you have to differentiate which source is giving which data. That has to be differentiated. So in TDM what happens, the complete signal gets transmitted by occupying the different time slots. So see what I am doing. First 3 sources are there. They are giving me the data of A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3 and C1, C2, C3. Now what they are doing, this TDM, what it does, first it will differentiate the data. What is there in this first particular time slot, it has to transfer this data. What is this data? It has divided into fixed variable length, as well as the data is proper, as to transmit the data properly, it is dividing your data. So what it does, it is occupying this one. So first what you have to transmit, A3, B3 and C3 in the first time slot. As we have said, the time domain into various fixed lengths. It has fixed length of 3 data per frame. Okay, 3 data we have to transmit, and the first data what it is transmitting at this time slot, first this A3, B3, C3 is to be transmitted. Then in the second time slot, in the second frame, again 3 data has to be, have fixed the variable length, right? The length is 3. So 3 data as transmitted, and which 3 data has to be transmitted? This time slot. Okay, this particular data has to be transmitted because we have differentiated. What is the important thing that we have to need is, one may need to differentiate between the various signals for data transmission. So in TDM the complete signal gets transmitted by occupying the different time slots. So we are occupying the different time slots. So in first time A3, B3, C3, in the second time slot A2, B2, C2, and the third time slot A1, B1, C1. And the length, fixed variable length is your 3. So we have given 3. So these are at the transmitter side. At the frame 1, in the frame 3 what you are transmitting at the communication channel, this part is transmitted. Then at the second frame A2, B2, C2 is transmitted. In the third frame A3, B3, C3. This is how your data is to be transmitted. Okay, first this A1, then A2, and then time slot 1, time slot 2 and time slot 3 with a fixed variable length of 3. So this is how your principle of working of your TDM works. First what you have to do, very important, several signals will be having, that has to be transmitted over your communication channel. So what the very first thing, you have to differentiate between the various signals. You have to keep the fixed time variable length has to be fixed, and we have to give that separate the channel, separate the data, and they have to transmit it through a channel. Yes, I hope you are clear with the working principle. Now see ma'am, for overall explanation again I'll repeat this. I have given the explanation also over here. Please do write it down. Okay, so what you are having, source A, B, C that wants to transmit the data through a common medium. Yes or no? This is the common medium. Thus the signal from source, three sources is divided into multiple frames, each having fixed time slot. Okay, here 3 units from each source, 3 units from each source, source A, source B and source C, and these are the 3 units from each source are taken into consideration that jointly form an actual signal. See, these 3 are forming an actual signal and they are transmitted through a particular frame. When a frame gets transmitted over a particular time slot, the next frame uses the same channel to get transmitted and the process is further repeated until the completion of the transmission. Is this true or not? See, for the first frame in this particular time slot, it has been transmitted through a channel. Now the second frame, what it does, it also uses the same channel to transmit its data, and this process is completely repeated until your complete data is been transmitted. Okay, both this here we can use this for both the channels, both for analog and digital signals. We can use this multiplexing techniques. Which multiplexing? We can use this time division multiplexing. But what happens in processing techniques, which allows the multiplexing of digital signals more conveniently rather than of your analog signals. I'll repeat this one, you just note it down. I think it has cut over here. Both the analog and digital signals can be multiplexed using time division multiplexing. But in processing technique, when we'll go for the processing technique, this processing technique allows the multiplexing of digital signals more conveniently rather than that of your analog signals. I think it's clear. See, these multiplexing, time division multiplexing can be used conveniently for both analog as well as the digital signals. But the thing is, this is more conveniently used in digital signals because they are digitalized. Easily you can make the frames and you can transmit the data from transmitted to the receiver through a particular channel. Yes or no? So this is more convenient. Both you can use at analog as digital, but for more convenience, this is used in your digital signals. So this was about your working principle of your TDM signal. Okay, now see how actually the block diagram will be seen. What is the block diagram? How you are going to check over here. Okay, what is the TDM system you are having? That was the working principle, and this is your block diagram of your time division multiplexing system. So in this section, in this technique, the complete channel is used for your data transmission. So this completely or TDM can, other words we can also call it as pulse amplitude modulation also, because in TDM system or the TDM block diagram or in the working of your time division multiplexing, we use pulse amplitude modulation. So this is because why we are saying a TDM system use pulse amplitude modulation. So in this modulation technique, each pulse holds some sort of time duration which allows the maximum channel usage. Okay, why we are saying each pulse holds some sort of particular time duration, so which is allowing the maximum channel usage. So after one pulse is transmitted, the another pulse will be holded. Okay, and this holding and technical, these are all used in your pulse amplitude modulation. So this TDM is similar to that your PAM. So it is another name. We can also similarly, not completely, but technically we can also say it similar to that one. So what happens in pulse amplitude, in this modulation technique, each pulse holds some sort of time duration and it completely maximally uses the channel usage. Okay, so if you are getting confused with my words somewhat, then you can ask me. Okay, I'll repeat it once again. The modulation technique which is used in your time division multiplexing is your amplitude modulation. So in this modulation technique, each pulse holds some sort of time duration which allows the maximum channel usage. Okay, we have to use maximum channel. We have to completely send one frame to the receiver. we should not go in hurry burry. So there should be some time duration. So it should be having some hold, sample and hold circuit should be there, and that kind of technicality is present in your PAM. So that's the reason we are saying the modulation technique that is used in your TDM is your PAM. Okay, now at the beginning of the system you are having this LPFs, the low pass filters. These low pass filters, what we are seeing, we are having at the beginning, the system is consisting of multiple low pass filters. Okay, why we are using, depending upon the number of data inputs. Suppose if I am having 10 data inputs, then I will be using 10 low pass filters over here. That is completely dependent upon your number of data inputs. These low pass filters are basically anti-aliasing filters, which eliminates your aliasing data or the aliasing effect of your data input signal. Do you remember what was your anti-aliasing effect? I'll give the link of that video also. Go back to that video, just check once again what was aliasing effect. I hope you remember. See, whenever you are having the undersampling, means sampling which is undersampling, so what happens, the pulses they get superimposed, right? So whatever the pulses which are getting superimposed one upon the another, the data which is present in one pulse, they will be lost. That is nothing but your aliasing effect. Yes or no? I hope you remember. Whenever you are having the low or the undersampling, then you will be having your which effect? Aliasing effect, or the sampled signal which is less than your Nyquist rate also. We can say Nyquist rate also, 2 times of your higher frequency component. If it is also less than Nyquist rate, then you will be having this aliasing effect. Just to see, remember the figure, your pulses are getting superimposed, then a small amount of data that has been removed or it will be destroyed. So that is the one which is aliasing effect. So these input data that should not be aliased. So as to remove that particular aliasing effect, we are using the low pass filters, which eliminates your aliasing of your data input signals, means overlapping of your data. That overlapping will remove your data or destroy your some of the data. So that's the reason we are using the anti-aliasing filter. Correct? I hope you are clear with this part. 1 second. So these low pass filters are basically your anti-aliasing filters that eliminate the aliasing of data at the input signals. Now see, the output of these low pass filters are fed to the commutator. As per the rotations of the commutator, the samples of the data inputs are collected by it. So what you are having, all these signals or all these data are given to the commutator. Commutator is a type of rotational unit. Okay, what it does, it gives the data one by one. Okay, for 1 second it will be a type of electrical switch type you will be having, a rotatory electrical switch in which we will be having some particular time durations. So these commutator, what it does, it first transfers the first signal, then after some time the second one, then after some time the third one. So that's the reason we are using this commutator. It rotations, for every rotation it will be giving you one data sample or the one data signal. Okay, as per the rotations of the commutator, the samples of the data inputs are collected by your next process. So hence the Fs is the rotation. Oh, it's get mixed up. Hence Fs is the rate of rotation of the commutator, which denotes the sampling frequency of the system. So this is the sampling, the rate of rotation is your Fs, and Fs is nothing but your sampling frequency. This is mixed up, I'll repeat. Suppose if you are having n data inputs here, then one after the another, according to the rotations, these data inputs are getting multiplexed and they are transmitted over this communication channel. Here they are getting multiplexed, and here by the commutator the data is coming one after one. Okay, one after the one the data is getting, and that data is getting multiplexed over here, and that is given to a communication channel. See, now at the receiver end, what we are having at the receiver end, this is the communication channel. This part is completely your transmitter. This part is completely your receiver. After this communication channel, this is given to the pulse amplitude demodulation circuit. Then again you are having a decommunicator. What it takes? It takes one sample. Then it is demodulating the your modulated signal. Then it is given to the low pass filter for getting your original message signal. Yes or no? So at the receiver end, a decommunicator is placed, and the important thing is it has to be synchronized. Okay, that is synchronized with the communicator at the transmitting end. This decommunicator separates a time division multiplexed signal at the receiving end. This will be what it will? It will be separating the TDM signal and the message signal, and these the communicator and decommunicator, they both should be synchronized. Okay, they both have to be synchronized. The communicator and the decommunicator must have the same rotational speed, because we are saying after every rotation the pulses or the data is transmitted. So they both have to be of same rotational speed so as to have the accurate demultiplexing of the signal at the receiving end. As to get the proper signal or the proper original signal at the receiving end, they both should have both communicator and decommutator, they both should be having the same rotational speed. Okay, so that only you will be getting the original message signal at the receiving end. And according to the rotations performed by the decommunicator, the samples are collected by the low pass filter, and the original data or the original message signal is recovered at the receiver side. Okay, this was about the working the total block diagram of your time division multiplexing signal. I hope you are clear with that. And some of the mathematical expressions, when FM is the maximum signal frequency and Fs is the sampling frequency, then your maximum signal frequency is given as Fs is greater than or equals to 2 FM. Okay, and thus then time duration is of course you know what is time duration between successive sample. Ts is equals to 1 by Fs. So this signal is rewritten as Ts is less than or equals to 1 by 2 FM. I hope you are clear with this. So this was about your time division multiplexing. In case of you are having any doubts, please do let me know more. Okay, so this was the last topic of your third unit or the third chapter of your analog communication. Okay, what you are having in this third chapter, it's very simple and very important chapter. You are having the sampling theorem, types of sampling, which are very important types of sampling, ideal, natural and flat top sampling. Okay, then afterwards you are having the pulse modulation schemes. In that, pulse amplitude modulation, pulse width modulation and pulse position modulation. Then you have seen the comparison of these three one, and the last topic was about your time division multiplexing. Correct? What was the definition? The multiplexing technique by which the multiple data signals can be transmitted over a communication channel in different time slot is known as your time division multiplexing. I hope you are clear with today's class. In case of any doubts, please do let me know, and please do watch the complete videos also. Okay, thank you.